Weight shift control 11-2 approaches and landings. Imagine you're flying a winged trike, and you've got a headwind to deal with during your final approach. Now, this headwind is a game changer. It shrinks your glide over the ground. So, if it's a strong headwind, your glide path becomes steeper. To counter this, you've got to bring your base leg closer to the approach end of the runway. Think of it like adjusting your strategy to land where you intend to. Now, wind can be a sneaky thing, right? You might not notice that headwind until you're on the base leg. In that case, don't hesitate, cut that base leg short and head toward the runway sooner. It's your best bet if the engine decides to take a break. And if the headwind kicks in during final approach, you're going to need more power to make sure you land where you planned. Now, let's talk about a stabilized approach, a pilot's best friend. It's all about keeping a consistent glide toward a specific spot on the runway. That spot? We call it the aiming point. But here's the thing. If your aiming point seems to move down and away from the horizon, you're coming in short. If it moves up toward the horizon, you're going to overshoot. In a stabilized approach, the runway shape stays the same. If you're getting shallower, the runway looks shorter and wider. If you're steepening, it looks longer and narrower. The trick is to choose your touchdown point wisely and adjust your glide to hit that aiming point dead on. While you're cruising in, keep scanning the landscape, from the aiming point to the horizon, trees, bushes, and even a bit short of the runway. This helps you catch any deviations and ensures you're right on track. Small, early adjustments are your secret sauce. And like any good story, there are some common mistakes to avoid. Don't underestimate a sneaky tailwind during the downwind leg. Make sure you're correcting for wind drift on that base leg and don't overshoot or undershoot that turn onto final. It happens to the best of us. Now, about that roundout. It's a smooth transition from your approach speed to landing. You start it when you're about 10 to 15 feet above the ground, and it's a gradual process. Don't rush it. You're aiming for a sweet spot just inches above the runway. Pulling the control bar back and gradually increasing your angle of attack will do the trick. Once you've nailed the roundout, it's time for the touchdown, a gentle settling of your winged trike onto the landing surface. In calm air, you can do this with the engine idling, touching down at the minimum controllable airspeed. And as you touch down, pull that control bar all the way back to avoid any surprises from the wind. If you need to brake, do it firmly and smoothly. Remember, the landing isn't over until you've slowed down to taxiing speed. Keep those turns slight until you've hit that speed sweet spot. Braking should be just short of skidding, and if you've got a nose wheel or rear wheel braking system, use it wisely. That's the landing saga. Adjust for the wind, keep it stabilized, and make a smooth touchdown. And of course, steer clear of those common pitfalls. Let's talk about the go-around, also known as rejected landings. So, picture this. You're on your final approach, all set to land, but suddenly, things aren't looking so good. Maybe there's an unexpected hazard on the runway, or ATC has some new instructions for you. Whatever the reason, if the landing conditions aren't up to snuff, it's time for a go-around. Now, here's the deal. A go-around isn't just for emergencies. It's a normal maneuver that any pilot needs to practice and perfect. Your flight instructor will drum into your head early on that going around is a valid option during any approach and landing. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you need to go around, the key is recognizing it early. The closer you are to the ground, the more critical the go-around becomes. It's not about panicking, it's about making a safe decision. And let me tell you, a go-around isn't dangerous in itself. It only gets risky when you delay it or mess up the execution. Now, let's talk about the two amigos in a go-around, power and speed. The moment you decide to go around, slam that throttle to full or the maximum allowable takeoff power. Smooth and no second guessing. Don't mess around with partial power unless your winged trike is at some crazy pitch angle. You've got to overcome inertia and get back to flying speed ASAP. And speed, it's always crucial, especially close to the ground. When you add power, watch that nose. You don't want it pitching up too soon. The aircraft won't climb until it's ready to fly, and that won't happen below stall speed. Stick to the climb speed recommended by the manufacturer during the initial part of your go-around. Now, a word of caution. There might be a temptation to pull up too early. Don't fall for it. You need to gain enough airspeed before attempting any fancy moves. In fact, in some cases, you might even want to lower the nose briefly to pick up speed. During a low go-around, You might find your aircraft settling and bouncing a bit. No biggie, just keep it straight, maintain a steady speed, and the added power will soften any bounces. But like any good story, there are some common mistakes to avoid. Don't miss the signs that call for a rejected landing. Once you decide to go around, commit to it. Indecision is a killer. Delaying the go around, not applying enough power, messing up the speed, premature attempts to climb. These are all things you want to steer clear of. So, there you have it, the art of the go around. Know when to pull the plug, hit the throttle, and get back to safe flying. Let's delve into short and soft field landing techniques for our winged trike friends. Picture this. You're eyeing a field that's not your typical runway. Maybe it's short, or perhaps it's as soft as a pillow. Here's the lowdown on how to tackle these situations. So, short field approaches and landings are all about making a grand entrance into a confined space. Imagine a runway that's shorter than your usual, or there are obstacles in the way. That's where these skills come into play. First things first, a stabilized approach is your golden ticket. You start your final approach from at least 500 feet above the touchdown area. Now, in the absence of a manufacturer's recommended approach speed, a good rule of thumb is 1.3 times the stall speed or 8 knots above stall speed. Remember, no gusty winds for this one. It's all about precision. As you glide in, power is your buddy. If there are obstacles like trees or buildings, go for idle power for the steepest glide angle. If it's obstacle-free, you can use power to make it to the landing surface. Smoothly adjust both power and speed to nail that stabilized approach. Now, this is like a precision routine. You've got to judge the roundout just right to avoid nosediving or stalling prematurely. If you're descending too quickly, lower the pitch and ease off the power. If not quick enough, add some power to soften the descent. A lack of floating during the roundout is your signal that your approach speed was on point. As you touch down, slam that nose down for aerodynamic braking and maximum wheel pressure. Apply brakes immediately to minimize that after landing roll. If you're in a super tight spot and need to stop on a dime, land a bit faster than usual, bring the nose down, apply brakes, shortest distance achieved. Now, let's talk about soft and rough fields. Think snow, sand, mud, or anything that's not your typical smooth runway. Approach for a soft field is similar to a normal approach but with a twist. Use proper gear, big tires, and a light touch. Power is your friend throughout the level off and touchdown to ensure a smooth, slow landing. Touch down at the lowest possible airspeed, keep that nose high, and use forward control bar pressure to keep the nose wheel off the surface. It's better to keep the main wheels just grazing the surface while the wings do the heavy lifting until you reach a better taxi surface. Remember, brakes are a no-go on soft fields. Let the surface slow you down naturally. And, if you need to make a quick exit, you can always power up and take off again. So, there you have it, short and soft field landings demystified for our winged trike adventures.